You want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it. The gender issue in boxing in the Olympics.
So, a person from Morocco?
I think it's Turkey.
Turkey.
It's Amane. I don't know. Amane Khalif.
Like one shot an Italian lady,
Dude,
right?
one shot, like one punch, woman, man. We don't. So it is inconclusive, right? Like it is conclusive or it is not conclusive.
As far as I understand it, it's conclusive that this person was born a female.
Yes. Well, potentially intersex.
Okay, so now we're getting into a biological gray area.
No, right. I know.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So this is your jam, right? You got your PhD in this.
In genetics type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is your domain. The thing is,
sure. I mean, to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't study gender, but yeah.
Right, but you understand like how chromosomes work and like
yes,
the chaos of what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I want to go to the history of it all first.
Okay.
Because all right. So the huge thing, females didn't really were involved in like Olympic stuff or sports competition until like early 20th century.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is very new, right? And genetics is very new.
Yeah.
And the concept of women and, man and woman is not new.
No, it's, goes back to Cambrian explosion times before that, probably.
Well,
yeah.
It definitely predates our knowledge of chromosomes.
Oh, yeah, well before, yeah.
And it predates our knowledge of testosterone.
Well before, yeah.
Right. And also humans, interestingly, are one of the more curious species that you can differentiate visually by...
Sexually dimorphic. Yeah.
Yeah. So like cats, like large cats have this, but actually, I don't know if tigers do, but...
No, I don't think... I couldn't tell a male or female just by looking at a tiger, like walking through the forest. I couldn't tell.
Right.
Probably not, no. Yeah.
Or dogs or whatever, right? Like these
Dogs,
are harder,
same, yeah.
like harder to discern visually. Mm-hmm. But there's things called male features and female features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is interesting. Why is that? What happens there?
Well, upright apes, mammals, apes specifically, females have breasts that are easily seen, penises that are easily seen on males, usually, depending on the species.
Apes have boobs, dude.
Yeah.
Apes got boobs.
Yeah. Now, all mammals have breasts, but on an animal that walks on four legs, it's hard to tell the breasts are there unless they're filled with milk, right?
That's right. They got teats, right? But it's harder to discern.
Yeah. You have to look at the back of the animal to see if they have balls. Basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, it's harder to discern.
I mean, yeah. So mammals are usually sexually dimorphic in the fact that males are larger. But if you see one tiger walking through the woods, you don't know if it's a female, you don't know how big the male is going to be because you don't see tigers very often, right?
Or if it's a younger male.
Or yeah.
Right, and so there's that. Yeah, so like females and males are different, and in the early 20th century. Women's suffrage, feminism came into play, and life became a little easier where you can have women go into sports and there's a little more. Sports is a luxury, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a luxury, sure.
Right, it's a luxury of like the industrial revolution, I think.
Not really. Greeks did it.
Greeks did it, but they had luxury.
The Greeks and the Romans had luxury, that's sure.
You don't have this kind of luxury. Like just, hey, I want to just fuck off and throw some poles.
Yeah, and get paid for it. Well, they don't get paid, but you know what I mean. Notoriety.
Yeah. I want to just do paddleboarding, right? You can't just and so and there was also a lot of stigma for women joining or doing sports because of, it's not feminine enough.
Oh, you mean it's not ladylike or whatever?
It's not ladylike, right? Or quote unquote.
I think that's pretty much dead though, right?
No, that's dead. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in the time, early 20th century.
Oh, early 20th century. Yeah.
I mean, dude, women couldn't vote until 1920. That's crazy recent.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And then it was 4 years later. I think it was the first Olympics where women literally like 100 years ago.
That's crazy, man.
So this is all recent to like separate sports or create a whole sporting competition at this level. And that's where it gets weird, right? Because, okay, it's not like women couldn't join. They just couldn't beat men at these sports.
Right. Maybe we should talk about why. I mean, I don't know if people probably know why, but we could talk about like, the distribution of strength or height or muscle mass,
Well, it's highly proportional to what? Testosterone level.
Right.
Which impacts muscle to fat ratio.
Yeah.
Affects height. Affects bone density.
Bone density, yep.
I mean, there's alertness. There's a lot of things that testosterone gives you.
Yeah.
And it's a bell curve, right? All this shit is a bell curve. And so even in the female competition side, the women that you see are generally on a certain
one
tail
extreme
end
tail.
of like testosterone generally, I would imagine, right? Like the
or athletic prowess. Let's just say that.
Mutants.
Yeah. Olympiads are on the extreme right tail of the distribution,
Of
whether
anything.
they're male or female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just whatever it is. They're a mutant. And and you're a geneticist.
Yeah.
I think all humans, all things are mutants.
Yes. So every person has mutations in them, right? But when you're using the word mutant, I'm thinking like X-Men when you say it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm saying mutant as in no one's the same.
True. But
Right.
there are predictable distributions that exist. And the male distribution is more right skewed than the female, right? So if you overlaid those two distributions, the female distribution would be a little bit the mean would be a little left of the male mean, right?
But when it comes to what though, right? Of certain hormones.
Well, it depends on the phenotype
Right.
you're talking about.
Yeah. So and that phenotype changes all the time. So all right, let's go back to the history here. Heinrich Roentgen, do you know who he is? He's like a German guy. He's like actually the only case that was a legit dude with abnormal genitalia.
Okay.
But he was raised as a girl.
Wow.
Because
okay.
it was just kind of ambiguous what his thing was apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the only reason why he got caught was he was an Olympic athlete. He was like world records and a bunch of shit, right? And he was also Hitler Youth. That doesn't help.
Nice.
Yeah, he only got caught that he was a man after like 30 years after the Olympics in the 1950s. And he got caught in a train. They found a man wearing women's clothing. I'm like, dude, you're dude. Right? And they got a doctor to examine him and he found a penis or male genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like a legit, because he competed as a woman. So he was a legit.
Yeah, so when you say legit, are we going to get to chromosome abnormalities? Or
No, we're not. Yeah, we're going to do that later.
Okay, all right.
This is pre-1960s. That's when things changed.
Okay.
And chromosomes, that stuff came in like mid 20th century.
I see.
Yeah. So they didn't really have a test for that. They pretty much just like grabbed your junk.
And see if it's there or not.
See if it's there or not. He had, visibly didn't have a very large thing or something, right? It was just an abnormal thing. And his parents raised him as a girl. From his perspective, he was always kind of this weird thing. But he's more of a man than a woman. And then there was Stella Walsh, who's American. And she won a bunch of shit too. And she has a vagina. Like a legit, at least ostensibly, what seems like a vagina.
Yeah.
And it was only like 50 years later after she got shot, actually. And they had to do an autopsy because they do autopsies for like murder victims.
Yeah.
Found ambiguous genitalia, but it was a vagina.
Okay.
She was intersex, apparently.
Right.
And so she had a distribution, like a higher testosterone, and she was always kind of viewed as a fella. She was called Stella the Fella. And so kind of, she had that, vibe, right? And that was like the beginning of what intersex is. And I think intersex is a very interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
Because like visually, if you have a vagina, back in the day, the definition for male female was probably if you have a vagina or not.
Yeah.
I wanted to describe to you like what you thought prior to genetics. What?
Yeah, prior to genetics, I think it's pretty safe to say that You just see if there's a dick or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Or breasts, right?
Or breasts, yeah.
So they did that in 1960s because of fucking the Russians and Cold War. Cold War was happening. There's a lot of heightened shit. Russians were winning. And there was a pair of sisters, the Press sisters. And they're dominating. They had like 26 world records, 6 gold medals. They're like killing it. It's track and field. They implemented, I think it was like 1962 or something like that, examination for their genitalia. And they never came to the competitions after that.
Oh.
Yeah. Now they never disclosed on what they are.
Right.
Right. But they didn't compete anymore after that. So they were wondering what they were.
These are Russians?
These were Russians.
Yeah.
They were implemented these new things, these new laws just for the Press sisters.
I'm guessing they competed in the female.
Yeah, competing female. These are all female, right? Yeah. By the way, because I don't think there's many cases.
The other way around doesn't really, yeah.
And so, intersex shit was happening. And how do you discern the difference between intersex and females? It was a very difficult problem.
Yeah.
Because around that time, too, they started implementing the bar body test.
Yeah. I know what that is.
Right. And the bar body test, if you can...
Yeah, so bar bodies are lionized X chromosomes. So what happens is when a female is born, it's caused of the fusion of an X, of course an X cell, X egg, because all eggs are X, and an X sperm. And what happens is in every female's body, and females are actually mosaics, and this is why calico cats have all those splotches, because only female cats can be calico.
Interesting.
And it's the direct process or direct result of randomly in each cell, one of the X chromosomes is shut off and lionized, which means like packaged.
They're just like crumpled up into a little ball because
exactly.
they're not really attached to anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the way this works is if there are bar bodies, if there are lionized X chromosomes, that person's female.
Yeah, they do swabs, a chick swab.
Yeah.
And they get the cells, epithelial cells, and they stain it with a biomarker for bar bodies. And you get to see literally what lights up like XX chromosomes.
Yeah.
And they did this for fucking like decades. Right?
Real quick caveat, the reason why the cat thing came up is because the fur color gene is on the X chromosome. So when you shut off one of them, you'll get these like splotty patterns of hair color in cats.
Oh, interesting.
That's why the calico cats are all that's how it's a female trait, because the hair color gene is on the X chromosome for cats, apparently. One of the hair color genes. Yeah.
So if they had... That's interesting. What if they have...
So randomly, let's say that one of the X's conferred like a tawny color, like a tawny gray brown, and the other one was black. Since lionization is random, in every cell, in every like epidermal cell, some of the cells will shut off the tawny color, and some of them will shut off the black, and that's why you'll have this.
I wonder if the patches are based on like distribution of those.
Oh, it's literally because of that.
Right.
Yeah,
but I'm assuming it's also some prenatal distribution of like lionized cells and not right, like higher distribution.
It could be epigenetic. Yeah,
right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. No, that's interesting. But yeah, they were doing bar body tests.
Yeah,
and shit went like clean. And what's your argument against the bar body test? What do you think?
Well, there's exceptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's exceptions. 1985, there was I think Martini. Some hurdler from like Brazil or something. Patino, sorry. She failed the bar body test. Now, people were self-regulating across their own country, doing their own bar body tests to make sure they don't submit athletes to the competitions. But she kind of passed through that. And it was because she was androgen insensitive.
What does that mean?
It means you don't gain any of the benefits of testosterone, even though you might be XXY.
Oh, XXY. So this is an XXY person.
Yeah.
Okay. But you don't get the benefit of the muscle growth and the bone density and the increased strength.
Right.
Okay.
And so if you don't gain any of the benefits, but you have a Y chromosome, what are you?
I mean, from the perspective of the Olympics, I assume a female.
Yeah. So she has female body parts.
Yeah.
They did multiple examinations on her, like physical to visual, and there's no reason for her to not compete as a female, right? And so that's why the bar body exam came into question.
Yeah.
Like, is chromosomes, right, the right way to determine a female and male? And like, there's so many arguments right now, right? Like, let's look at the chromosomes to determine it. What are you going to do? What happens in these cases?
Yeah, there's going to be these one-offs. Well, they're not one-offs, but they're very, very low, right? But it's not low.
It's not low. It's not low.
The reason why it's not low is because you're looking at a skewed distribution already.
Yeah.
Right? So since you're on the right tail of that distribution for females, there's a higher propensity of coming across females, presenting females that have higher testosterone, higher muscle, higher bone density, and that could be because of androgynous drive, like Y chromosome drive, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be an elite athlete at this level, there's already a bias, a population bias towards higher testosterone, and that might leak certain kind of people who are a little more, intersex.
Yeah.
And I think they did this. It was like 15 out of 2,000. They did an SRY test.
Mm-hmm.
So SRY gene is for testing if the testes are developed.
I see.
And that's
because it's a Y chromosome gene, I assume.
It's a Y chromosome. And they specifically target this SRY gene. And they found out of 2,000 women, it came up in like 15 of them.
That it was on or activated.
That it was activated.
Yeah.
But they had female parts.
And did they pass the chromosomal tests too? Were they still XX?
They sent them through they're actually able to compete because they consider it a false positive.
Mm.
Right?
Okay.
Because they have all the female parts, and they did further examinations, but they do have. And so you find out that the intersex population is actually higher than the normal populace.
Right, because you're on that right end of the distribution.
It was maybe 30 times higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're generally higher to find this distribution of people for intersex. But if you use a classic definition of what a female is, right?
Yeah.
Which is do they have the female bits, the bits and pieces, right? That's what we do. Then they pass these tests, these visual tests, the testosterone tests and whatnot, and then they're able to compete. The interesting thing is the definition between male and female predates science.
Yes. This branch of science, yeah.
Right. And if you use the definitions that you created, those words are created before science, requires you to have kind of compassion for people who abide by that culture, right?
Yeah.
That predates science. And so if you see your daughter, you perceive to see a daughter, right? Like genitalia of a female. I'm not going to do I have a daughter. I'm not going to do a gene test on her.
No.
To see if she has an SRY gene. She got the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you only find out 20 years later, they do a gene test on you that you have an SRY gene. It's kind of fucked up, right?
I think so, yeah. And to make matters worse is that most, if not all, it could be all of these people can't have children. Because meiosis doesn't work because it doesn't have maybe an XXY, it's still possible. But you have to have in males to make sperm, you need to have an XY, one of each to go through meiosis. Same thing with females, you have to have one X, two X's, so one for each gamete. So in a lot of these situations, they can't have children to add on to the problems, right? So Jamie Lee Curtis is technically a man. She's intersex. A lot of people don't know. She's
Swire, right? Some kind of syndrome.
I forget what it's called, but yes, she has an XY. Her genotype is XY, but her Y is completely destroyed. It doesn't work. So it defaults to the X, right? So she's just a single X chromosome female.
Yeah,
basically.
X naught. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
X
she
naught,
would fail the bar body test because she would have no.
She has no bar bodies.
Yeah,
right.
And so she would have failed the 1960s test, and she wouldn't have been able to compete unless she.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though you examine her parts. Yeah, it was fucked up because they were there was testimony and it was fucked up because you would go, if you're a female athlete in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, you would go into a little room with 3 doctors, female doctors, and they would you have to strip naked and they would just examine you.
Yeah.
Right? It's fucked up already.
Yeah.
And then there was a girl who left the room crying because she didn't have enough breasts.
Wow.
And they didn't consider her
A female.
a female.
But she had a vagina?
She had a vagina.
That's weird to me.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
testimony. Now, it's inconclusive whether that person, after following more examinations, didn't do it. But yeah, like people would just kind of visually examine you. And then, like, are we going to that point again where we're going to do visual
Well,
examinations?
No, I don't think we have to do any visual examinations. I think with a combination of chromosomal tests and gene transcription, you can get your answer, right?
Yeah, but what happens to intersex?
So here's the thing, right? Yeah, so what you mean what happens to them? Because you can tell if someone's intersex pretty easily nowadays, right? You
Yeah.
can check for the SRY expression, and you can check for bar bodies. You can do both.
Yeah. So
Right.
one thing is, the reason why they had to do all these gene tests was because of the one test they had before was testosterone.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of like the marker whether you're able to compete or not.
Yeah.
But they were unable to do that because you couldn't tell the difference between a doping woman and a natural man,
Right.
right? Or
Or just naturally high testosterone in a
Yeah.
female. Yeah.
so they couldn't conclusively determine it. We've already done this. We've already done from decades of experience that testosterone is not a very good marker to determine gender, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we went to genes. And then genes doesn't seem like it's a very good way.
Well, no, I think it is. You can test for everything now, right?
Right.
You can see if there's a Y. You can see if there's two X's. You can see the gene expression. You can do all of this stuff now.
Right, so then we have to assume that intersex is okay for them to compete against females.
Right. So then you have to make this arbitrary, weird line in the sand that says everything to the left of this line is female, everything to the right is male. And I think that's actually the problem. It's not that these tests don't work now. It's that you have to draw a line in the sand.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense.
And it's because, and I go back to this statement, because we're all mutants. There's no such thing as anything. There's a condition. They're just things.
I agree with what
There
you're
are
saying, but there
people-
are
they're
are
just
actual
things.
there are actual 100%. And head count is one, right? This is a funny thing, right? You've never seen a man with two heads. Now you've seen Siamese twins. That's a different situation, but
But
you'll never see
we're all just
human
beings, though. We're all just a gene expressed onto.
Yeah, we're all mutants in most scenarios of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for
yeah.
instance, Michael Phelps is a mutant. You know why he's a mutant? Because a boy can't feel lactic acid.
Yeah.
That's a fucking extreme. Like, he could do anything. He could go fucking a lot of endurance things, running to cycling. He did swimming because he's tall and lanky, so it's perfect for him. That's a mutant,
Sure.
right? So like, we're all mutants here. My argument is let's get rid of female male
No.
because we're all mutants. It's a mutant
It's
Olympics
not gonna
anyway.
work. Here's why, right? The problem is that one body type, let's call it body type, A and B. Like video games nowadays, they don't use male and female, they use body type.
Yeah.
It's like A and B, right? Body type A is always going to be body type B. In the vast majority of circumstances.
Right.
Right? I think that's inherently unfair.
Yeah, but to use the words male female is inconclusive because it's a genetic blurry line,
It's inconclusive for 3% of the situations.
which is a fucking lot.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a lot. I mean, the whole fucking like culture war shit is based on like trans people. And I understand that trans is different from like intersex. Completely different.
That's completely different, yeah.
Yeah. So this is not even a trans issue.
Yeah.
These are humans that want privacy, right?
Yeah.
Like this Amane Khalif, dude, how fucked is it, right? You were raised female your whole life. I think there's pictures of her like in little curls clothing and everything, and has a vagina, right? Now she has to tell her if she has a boyfriend. She has to tell her family. Like all this shit is now aired out. How does it affect the relationship she has later in life? Like all these things. Like once you disclose this, right?
Don't you think, though, and I'm playing devil's advocate, and I do feel for this person, but don't you think that's the social contract you sign when you join the Olympics?
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, and all this is just aired out way too
In
strange.
a shitty way.
In
And she's
shitty
getting
way.
a lot of hate that she shouldn't get, probably.
Yeah,
That's the part that I don't like, is the fact that people shit on her for something that
and she's not releasing anything, right? Like
she shouldn't.
Well, no, there's so much fucking hate because, oh, this person looks like a man. They're saying looks like a man. Like a lot of women look like men.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so it's not like it's the worst argument to make. And then the only way she can prove it is what? Fucking strip naked? What are you gonna do?
But I don't. The part that I have a hard time with though is that I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's fair for women who can never produce that much testosterone or whatever muscle mass to compete with a person who can't. Like it's
no, I understand it because this is a pugilistic sport, and so you're gonna fucking inflict damage onto other women. Yeah. It's different from like running or whatever, right?
It's not because men are faster too.
No, I understand, but again, we're all mutants, and so you create a line. You have to determine what that game is. Now, when we say male female, are we using the pre-chromosome, pre-science definition of it? Or are we using fucking science, and science is an ever-growing thing, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know, DSDs in the 1960s. They only found out in like 1980s. And so science is an ongoing, growing consensus of something.
The lazy yet most efficient way to handle it is to remove all ambiguous cases. They can't compete.
Damn, dude. Then what are you going to do? Testosterone? What are you going to do?
I said that's the lazy but efficient way of doing
No, that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Well, not necessarily. Not in this case, they didn't.
Well, she passed tests. A lot of these people pass certain tests.
Right. But apparently she failed some too. Is this true?
Because every body has a different test.
Yeah.
What if she failed the bar body test, but she passes like the other tests, the visual and, if they get a fucking like X-ray or whatever.
That's an ambiguity. Then that is in my devil's advocate argument, she'd be removed. So
the XXY lady, the person who failed the bar body, should get her medals removed.
I'm not going down that. I'm saying,
but no, that's ambiguous.
From now going forward.
No, but I'm saying that if you have to strip those people of their medals because they have records and everything.
But your solution that everyone plays in the same playing field
because we're all mutants, the Mutant Olympics. Because gender doesn't exist unless you decide. Gender only exists if you put a fucking line in it. Okay, and then you ask a person.
You're gonna have men killing women in a ring.
No. You design sports where they're on the same playing field, like surfing or fucking shooting an arrow.
But then you go in the same argument. Then you're stopping people from doing stuff they love, right?
Have a different Olympics for that. But the Olympics, the moment you start, that's why shit happened when women entered the sports because you started saying what a woman was. Before it was just all like this. Actually, in the NBA, there's nothing in there saying women can't compete in it.
Right, but they just can't be selected because of the difference in ability and performance.
The bell curve, right?
Yeah, it's a selection thing, right? It's evolution, right? You're not going to select a woman not because she's a woman, but because she's not as tall, not as fast, can't jump as high.
And they were saying like when Brittany Griner was at her peak, maybe she could have competed as a man, right?
Yeah,
and she's like a 6'8", power forward, and so it's one of those things where it's a distribution.
But I'm with you on that, actually.
Because then you get rid of, how we
in professional sports, if they can actually beat the selection process, I'm okay with it.
I'm just saying, because we created this language game, right? You created this arbitrary line that you made, fucking since we were born, right?
Yeah.
Like you created this line of what you are. Your parents assigned it to you, and you just follow that track. It's cultural, social. That even predates science, right? I look at if there's a vagina or a man. That's before science shit, right? And then I'm going to raise you as that. That's before science. I'm not going to do a bar body test on my kid to treat him differently based on what I think a person should be treated.
I'll give you a little fun thing, right? So apparently last week or a week before in Red Lobster, they got a fresh shipment of lobsters in. And one of these lobsters was like this golden orange color. Okay?
All right.
So the person's like, whoa, this lobster is a really weird color.
It's already pre-cooked. Oh, wait, go ahead.
And the worker notices this and says, what the fuck is this lobster, dude? What the hell is this? And then somehow it got up the chain and a scientist got involved and all this stuff. Super rare mutation in lobsters.
It is a mutation.
Yeah, it's like one in like...
It's the albino
It's like one in a million. It's a very, very rare lobster.
Albino lobster.
So this lobster becomes like a pet now for the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does the existence of that lobster mean we don't eat lobsters anymore? What happens to all the red lobsters, the normal colored lobsters? They still got to go through the process of being eaten, cooked, all this stuff, right?
Yeah, becoming a red lobster.
I don't think we should stop society and change the rules because of a gold lobster, a reddish gold lobster.
I really want to end it there. But no. So like the way that you resolve a lot of the trans bathroom issues is you have one unisex bathroom, right?
That's an easy one, pretty
come
much.
Come in, come all, right?
Yeah,
the Olympics,
piss
come in, come all. Anyone
yeah.
compete.
Piss and shit however you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I would argue Michael Phelps is more of a mutant than the intersex people. That's a red lobster compared to all the other intersex people. Intersex people is like 1% of the population. It's pretty high.
Yeah, but
Michael Phelps is more rare than 1% of the population.
That's true.
Right?
I'll concede to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so shouldn't he, the 0.001,
be removed
to make sure everyone else is playing the same field, right? What's normal? What the fuck's normal? He's not a normal person.
No, it's a good argument, and I think that, I just think it's bad. The only thing that I think it hurts more people to put men and women in a ring together than it does to exclude some golden, reddish, whatever fucking lobsters. I think that the fact that women will never, ever, most women, 99% of women, won't get past that hurdle because they won't be able to survive in the ring with a man, right? I think it hurts more people to put everyone on the same playing field than it does to omit some people.
Yeah, I'm just saying, depending on what that line is, right? On what a woman and a female or one woman and man is. And that's just an arbitrary line that we've created since fucking day one.
It's arbitrary, but it's pretty damn good.
As in, are we going to go back to what they call the Naked Olympics? Just kind of do a...
The Greeks did?
No. So in the 1960s, they're just going to grope women to see if they have a vagina? Is that the best way?
No. I think you can improve that. I'm just saying that you extend that definition a little bit based upon the current available science. But I think if the science tells you there's an ambiguity, whether that be because of multiple, out of the 10 tests that need to be done, if 2 of them are bad, that's an ambiguity, right? And
so,
I think
so we're talking about all ambiguities gone.
That hurts the least amount of people, in
so
my opinion.
All DSD, intersex, we're going to do tests.
It hurts the least. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Right. But it depends on how you go about it, right? If you have your own national, champions, right? And then you have to do these tests. And they're fucking the best one in their country. And now come Olympics, there's a little more advanced, tests. Comes out you have an SRY gene or whatever.
Ambiguity. Let's just say ambiguity. Yeah.
You can't compete. Right?
That's my stance.
Damn.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It just goes back to Spock.
So you would do bar body tests plus SRY gene plus all the other
they have,
all the gene types,
everything.
So checking for XY.
And I think a female has to pass all the female related sides of that. It has to be on either one of the
What
sides.
about if they have high testosterone, very high testosterone?
Again, I don't know if that's one of the tests.
It is. It's one of the gender tests.
I'm not on the committee, but if I were, I'd be like, maybe there's a hard cap.
That's hard to do. Hormone is an expression.
Well, then maybe
right?
that shouldn't be one of the tests.
Yeah,
but the SRY and the bar body, even those 2 tests put together are a pretty good way of saying like ambiguity or not.
So ambiguity's all gone. Damn.
That's the most Occam's razor way to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I just can see a lot of backlash on that.
I'm sure there would be, but but there'd be more backlash if you put men and women in the ring together. That's my point.
Right. And in this case, we have to be very careful that Amane is not a man. She's intersex at the very most.
Correct. It's false news. It's fake news that she's a man.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's
right.
Intersex at the very worst. Yeah.
But then she might be actually a full woman. We don't know.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
Someday. But no, it's a good conversation. I think it's important conversation.
Yeah. I'm more of the chaos person. So I don't think there's anything I think these are all language games, semantic games, and we come from an old school definition of words that we're trying to fit into a new wave of science, which is like chromosomes and intersex and understanding different conditions. Like how the more shit you know, the fuzzier it gets.
The fuzzier, no, I agree that the fuzzier it does get,
Right.
but you can categorize fuzzy. Is my point.
Yeah, but then once you categorize some fuzzy, right? You can create these little bins. Now, what do you do with the bins? And that hurts people.
Fuzzy Olympics.
All right, we're good.
All right.